Buddy Matt Bernier and Andrew Champagne for RacingPicks.com, getting ready for the first jewel in the American Triple Crown. And no, it's not the Kentucky Derby this year anyway, in 2020. It happens to be the Belmont Stakes, typically the test of the champion. But Andrew, this year it's a little bit different. It's not run at the standard mile and a half that we're accustomed to for these three-year-olds. It's going to be run at a one-turn mile and an eighth at Belmont Park. In the midst of all of the COVID-19 unfortunate sort of circumstances, this is the race that will now kick off the American Triple Crown in 2020. Overall, your thoughts on the change as far as the configuration is concerned and what this might do to the field going forward as far as the three-year-olds in the Triple Crown?
Well, with regard to the management of these races, it's important to note one big fact, and that is from the standpoint of trying to preserve what they could, NYRA did what they could. There were no good options. Had they tried to run a mile and a half race, you would have three-year-olds that had no foundation at this point because a lot of races got canceled. Had they waited to run the Belmont after the Derby and Preakness, you would have had horses passing the Belmont to prep for the Breeders' Cup. That wouldn't have been a great look. This is making the best out of an absolutely horrible situation. We get the Belmont. We get it at a mile and an eighth this Saturday. It's a different kind of Belmont, but if you take a look through history, these races have changed a surprising amount over the course of the last 150 years. This is just another wrinkle in that history. And we do get arguably the best three-year-old in the country, certainly the best three-year-old in training right now in the country. That's Tiz The Law. He will likely be a very heavy favorite. And a lot of people think that this Belmont may very well be a one-horse race.
And let's talk about Tiz The Law a little bit. This is a horse for Barclay Tagg. Really hasn't done anything wrong in 5 lifetime starts. The only loss thus far was a narrowly beaten third at Churchill Downs as a 2-year-old. All he's done here as a 3-year-old, he's won 2 graded stakes races, including the Grade 1 Florida Derby. It seems like he's the type of horse that can kind of make his own trip. He has a little bit of tactical speed, but he can also lag off a little bit if for some reason they throw it down early and still come with his run. I don't know about you. I love that he has proven himself over a number of different surfaces. This track at a mile and an eighth doesn't really seem to be much of a concern to me. What are your overall thoughts on him? Not only is he the horse to beat, but do you really see a scenario where someone else jumps up and beats him, or do you think he would be the one to ultimately end up taking himself down?
You pretty much nailed it. This is a horse that, as of right now, looks head and shoulders above the horses that are likely to run in the Belmont. Even going back to earlier this year when he was in Florida, the talk was, okay, you have Tiz The Law in Florida. You have Nadal, Charlatan, and Authentic for the Bob Baffert barn. Bob Baffert sending no runners to the Belmont Stakes. Couldn't have envisioned that a couple of months ago. But Tiz The Law certainly looks like the most talented 3-year-old of this bunch. 4 for 5 with 2 Grade 1 wins. And Matt, what I like is he's got a Grade 1 win over this track. He won the Grade 1 Champagne last year as a 2-year-old going a mile. The distance isn't going to be a problem. Barclay Tagg, an excellent horseman. Tiz The Law, bred to handle this kind of distance and this kind of class level. He's by a red-hot young sire in Constitution out of a Tiznow mare. A lot of speed, a lot of stamina. He's shown that. The one loss in his career you mentioned was at Churchill Downs. That was in the slop. I have no problem drawing a line through that race. The 2-back effort was also far better than it might look on paper. Jockey Manny Franco was trying to teach Tiz The Law something and got him into trouble a little bit in doing that, but was able to eventually veer him out into the clear. And once Tiz The Law got into the clear, there was no stopping that horse. He's going to be about 3 to 5, 4 to 5, maybe if you like him and you're lucky. If Tiz The Law doesn't win, a lot of tickets go up in smoke. He'd be a very logical winner of this race, and he'll be bet as such.
You know, you brought up that run 2 back in the Holy Bull. I'm glad you did. Not only, like you say, did he get into a little bit of a pinch, a little bit of a tight spot, but I was so taken by the agility that he showed that day, the ability to be in a tight position and listen to his rider. Manny Franco did immediately angle him out into the clear and asked him to move a little bit, but then came right back to hand. And for a young, inexperienced 3-year-old, that to me just spoke volumes about where this horse is mentally, and I have no reason to believe that he won't continue to move forward here. Look, we're recording this on Tuesday evening. The race itself is going to be drawn on Wednesday, so we're using probables. This is the field that we expect to go and be entered in this running of the Belmont Stakes, so things could change. But let's talk about some of the contenders. We won't go over all the other horses that'll be running against Tiz The Law, but I know, Andrew, there are a couple horses that you were a little bit intrigued with.
Yes, that's for sure. A couple of the horses that might figure to take sort of wise guy money are Sol Volante and Tap It to Win. Sol Volante, 4 for 6 lifetime, won the Sam Davis, was second in the Tampa Bay Derby behind a good horse in King Guillermo that came back and ran well in one of the divisions of the Arkansas Derby. Ran just last week in an optional claiming event and will run back on short rest. That is not something you see very often in American horse racing. Commonplace in Europe, commonplace in Australia, not so much in the United States. So certainly something to keep an eye on. If he's ready and they go very fast early, he's got a shot to come pick up the pieces. Also dive in a little bit on Tap It to Win, but I think that one might be a hair over bet. When he's good, he's very good, as he showed last time out. When he is bad, he's very bad. The question is, which Tap It to Win do we get? If we get the Tap It to Win that won an allowance event last time out at Belmont in a pretty fast time, that's the horse that will likely run second. If we get the Tap It to Win that ran 10th in back-to-back starts last year, that's a horse that probably won't be close. The long shot that intrigues me a little bit is Modernist. Modernist is trained by Belmont and was sort of on the fence going into the weekend. Had an excellent workout at Belmont Park, going 5 furlongs in 59-1. Bill Mott, Matt, a very patient horseman, as you know, he wouldn't have wanted to rush into this race with a horse that wasn't ready. The fact that Modernist is going to be in the field on Saturday, as it stands right now, filming on Tuesday, I think speaks volumes about where this horse is physically. Can he beat Tiz The Law? Probably not. But if you're playing cold exactas, maybe you cold deck Tiz The Law with Modernist and extract a little bit of value out of the likely favorite. That would probably be the direction I go if you want to maybe take a little bit of a swing in a race that seems like a free square from a multi-race exotics perspective. You might be able to get a little bit of value there because I think Modernist is going to be a little bit of a price. And Matt, I know there's one other price that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in a horse called Farmington Road. I've liked him for quite some time. He's one of two scheduled to enter in here for Todd Pletcher. And the thing that's always been most intriguing to me about Farmington Road is it feels like he will run all day. I feel like he could go 2 miles and not take a deep breath. He may not be the most brilliant horse. He may not be the fastest horse as far as speed figures are concerned, but he just has the impression, or gives the impression to me, of the type that the distance isn't going to be the thing that beats him. Now, the problem for me, anyway, in a race like this, I was hopeful for the 1.5 miles with him. At a mile and an eighth, I feel like that sort of neutralizes that long-windedness, that sort of stamina that he has. And also, we kind of, let's piggyback on the Modernist talk a little bit, and it could end up hurting a horse like Farmington Road. Farmington Road is entirely void of early speed. He's a horse that's going to come from the back of the pack. You brought up Modernist. When we look at this field based on the probables, I don't know about you. I don't see a blistering pace setting up in here. You've got a horse like Tap It to Win, who certainly, we saw how fast he ran in that N1X most recently at Belmont. He'll wheel back on short rest, as you noted. But Modernist is a horse that can be involved from the jump. He may not be a burner out there, but I can't imagine him coming from too far off of it. And then ultimately, where does that position a horse like Tiz The Law? Just in general, what are your thoughts on the pace situation?
Well, it's going to likely be an 8 or a 9 horse field, allotting for a defection or two here. An 8 or a 9 horse field. It's not going to be the 16 horse field that Belmont may have originally thought of when they announced the rescheduling of the race and the new configuration and all of that. With this kind of a field, one would think that if everybody breaks cleanly, everyone is going to get exactly the trip that they want, which isn't necessarily something you see in the first leg of the Triple Crown. Just look at the chaos you see at the Kentucky Derby every year with the 20 horse field there. But I agree with you. Modernist should be sitting up close. And this first quarter is going to tell the story as far as if the deep closers like Sol Volante and Farmington Road have a big shot in here. If they go 23 to the quarter, 46 and change to the half, closers have a big shot. If they go 24, 48 and change, all of a sudden people that back closers may get a little bit nervous because those front runners are going to have something left at the end. Tiz The Law may not necessarily be a dyed-in-the-wool front-running type horse, but I think he's got the potential to set a perfect trip just off the speed and be in range as the field enters that big sweeping turn at Belmont Park. And if he gets that kind of trip, I think he's going to be very, very tough to beat.
The Belmont is the main event on Saturday's card, but it's littered with stakes action, including 3 other Grade 1 events. Be sure to head on over to RacingPicks.com. You'll be able to find the best bets and plays of the day from myself and Andrew on Saturday. Also, you might want to make sure that you are taking a look at RacingPicks on Twitter, at RacingPicks. On Friday afternoon, there will be a giveaway. Make sure that you're involved over there, again, at RacingPicks on Twitter. Andrew, your handle on Twitter.
At Andrew Champagne, last name spelled just like the drink.
Mine is at Bernier_Matt. Enjoy the 2020 Belmont Stakes, the first leg of the 2020 American Triple Crown. Things are a little bit different this year. They're all going to need to have their shoes tied on tight if they're going to run down Tiz the Law.